Tabusiama movie bi akwaba na memfa Brameke TV and platform we eso Nyankopon inshira papa. Abusia sisi ameno kasa die Oliver Barker Vamowor. In fact, Orano, he is in a hot waters papa because obepie the appointment committee nim now will provide the evidence the appointment committee no Jessica free the nominees no before say ombe approve omo amomo akọ function and as omo kodi omuduma as a minister. Awusia san komodidie we na Kwesi Pratt Junior in law no and in layman's omo kan say statement also no owura no akire ensemu na utie ensem a Kwesi Pratt kana na chese Oliver Barker Vamowor wantimi put up the evidence. It has consequences for that. Sounds na utimi the evidence the babontia. Then it also has another consequence for that. Enti mempese mekase bebre yanko na yanko hwe the video a yewura Kwesi Pratt Junior what you say ono nso otimi expressing view on this matter. And after that, you know, na yedi we amokani say yedi ni ebeka bia no apabe somo ewo yem platform we eso yebeso so do comment betum kama na wala iki dwumadi no branko modidi ni ekoso na wonso wa share thoughts on this matter. Ewo say na yewura Oliver Barker Vamowor otimi kasa asem no ana se na ni kwanse otimi kasa asem no abusia enti fa comment tumbra conversation ekoso Nyankopon enkoso a ehira hanom you number 1 authentic platform yenko na yenkotie ensem no emu enchiremu emfa embra na ekoba bidina kaina atoaso yem platform we eso Nyankopon ehira.
Very simple matter. It's not complicated at all. If indeed members of the appointments committee have been demanding bribes, to carry out their duty, it is clearly an offense. Not just an offense, it's a criminal offense. And for which those who have received and paid bribes ought to suffer sanctions as prescribed by the law. It would also substantially damage the integrity and perhaps the credibility of the Appointments Committee of Parliament and by extension Parliament itself. So this is a very, very serious allegation. On the other hand, if the allegations are frivolous, without any foundation and so on, we ought to take a serious view of it, because to impugn the integrity of the Appointments Committee and Parliament itself would be injurious to the practice of democracy in this country, and it ought to be taken very, very seriously. I'm intrigued by the fact that Mr. Vamowor claims to have evidence and claims that he has the capacity to prove the allegations he made before the Appointments Committee today. We are waiting for the outcome in a few hours, perhaps even minutes. The drama would unfold, and I want to see a situation where he's given all the opportunities to prove his case. If he's unable to prove his case, then of course the law must apply. And I think we should avoid the situation where people who are in the public space, like you, like him, take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them and go berserk. If that is the case, it should not be tolerated at all. And Mr. Vamowor ought to be dealt with as any other citizen who infracts the law, So that's my position. The Appointments Committee today would give him an opportunity to prove his case, and if he's unable to do so, the consequences are very clear. So I have nothing more to say.
All right. Kingsley.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Good morning to Kwesi. I think this is the first time I'm meeting you. And I'm glad I'm on the same platform with you to deliberate on national issues. I agree with Kwesi on this matter that to say that the whole appointment committee of Parliament is engaged in bribery, all right, or corruption, is a very serious thing. It's a very serious offense. And we are developing a democracy. And so you would think that people that the President of the Republic of Ghana has chosen to go and man certain ministries, he would have reasons for choosing them to go there. And for that to be just put on a silver platter to the extent that you can just go and pay for so they approve you, it's not something that anyone would want to hear. And so if he has, and just like you showed, he said he has evidence, all right, or he's glad to go there,
right,
which means that he may have evidence, and he's a lawyer. So he should know what he's saying. But I also want to talk about this, that it looks like this matter of freedom of expression, if you're not careful, will take it to an extent where anyone will do something to gain a voice in Ghana. It's not easy to become a voice in Ghana. I used to, when I was in KNUST, Uncle Kwesi used to come around. We all moved to Unity Hall, always around, and watch him. And we all aspire to be like him, who is a voice, all right? Whatever political party becomes a government, he will critique them, he will offer advice. That's a voice, all right? It looks like Oliver is trying to cast himself in that mold, all right? And he's not there yet. And so the little publicity he seemed to have gained, I think I saw a program where they're talking about constitutional review, and it was one of those people who was allowed, who had the privilege of giving a keynote address, right, or some form of address. If you gotten yourself to that stage, you should guard it. You don't put any information you get out there. It could maybe a rumor he has or anything. You don't just put it out there just for notoriety. All right. I remember the case of Honorable Kendapa against him. It is still in court.
Yes.
Where at there are times he doesn't even appear in court. I think the last time they went to court, his lawyer couldn't come. The lawyer of Kendapa wanted costs against him.
There's a 10 million defamation case against
yes.
him. Yeah.
So when you have this going against you, you should be careful. And in our profession, we are lawyers. In our profession, there are certain things you just do not do. All right. So if it is not true, and he's not had the opportunity to come and prove his case, if it's not true, then there are dire consequences, and I think we should look at those. If it's true, then all those involved, I think they have questions to answer, and we can't just take it. Oh, it's one of those. It's not one of those. It is that they must be there to do a proper job to vet the persons, and we're all interested. I mean, all the media, the main media houses are showing it in the afternoon. Some of us, when you come from court, you have time to watch snippets of it. You do, and so it's important. Let it not be marred by hearsays. If it's not hearsays, let him come and prove his case.
I see. It surprises me, though. I mean, as a lawyer, I mean, you would expect much better in terms of his sense of judgment. I mean, to put out an allegation like this and actually even muster the confidence to say that, yes, I'm going to go to Parliament and prove my case. I mean, that's the impression I get from that, the reaction to him being summoned before Parliament. But you notice, Uncle Kwesi, that there was a heated debate between the minority and the majority side on the appointments committee as to whether the vetting should proceed or not. The minority made a simple case, which is that, look, we don't want a situation where we're going to vet and then, we'll possibly approve you. And then the public is going to think that you gave us money, and that's why we approved you. And so we don't want to be a part of this until the substantive matter is heard. It is either he has evidence to come and prove that you, the chairman of the appointments committee, and some of your colleagues, remember he was, the allegation was more to do with the chairman and his colleagues on the majority side. And that until he has evidence to prove that indeed you, the chairman of the appointments committee, you take money before vetting and approving people, we are not interested in continuing with this. And then the minority side, of course, with the chairman himself, saying that yes, we totally understand your feeling, we totally understand where you're coming from, but we cannot punish Dr. Omane Boamah, who is sitting before us. He's here with his family, relatives, and everybody else who is there to support him. We can't ask the man to go back just on account of an allegation by just one person. In any case, the business of government must continue or must go on. Uncle, do you think that the decision by the appointments committee to even continue with the vetting, despite this allegation that was made against the against the committee, do you think that it was an appropriate or an accurate sense of judgment on their part, or you think they should have suspended it till the matter was heard?
Well, first of all, I don't see how asking a nominee to go home and come back the next day can be described as punishment. That's very strange. If there are circumstances which make it impossible for a committee of parliament to continue sitting and witnesses are asked to go home, that cannot be punishment. And I was watching the vetting process, and I was really surprised about that kind of claim that asking Dr. Omane Boamah and his supporters to go home would amount to punishment. In the first place, those who followed him there, really, what is their role in the process? There's something which has developed over the years, and I find particularly repugnant. You understand? This question of mobilizing people from MPs, constituencies, and from all over the place to come and show solidarity and so on, in a certain sense is meant to intimidate, to show that, look, these are the big men and so on behind me, and you better be careful, how you deal. And I find it extremely repugnant. I think that we should stop it, somehow. Because also, it has very serious financial implications.
Right.
Imagine that somebody from Wa or Bolga and so on is appearing before the appointments committee, and all the chiefs in his locality are mobilized to come to Accra. And sometimes there are 20, 30, 40 people. Even the transport cost alone is mind-boggling. And then when they come to Accra, the minister, the nominated minister, has to take care of their accommodation, their feeding, and so on. Why would you impose these burdens on the nominees from the very beginning? How much do our members of parliament and ministers earn? And we've all been complaining that the burdens imposed on them by their constituents and so on may be a reason why, sometimes they have to cut corners in order to make some money to satisfy those conditions and so on. And we are beginning to see that this practice of bringing supporters to the appointments committee and so on is not diminishing. It's increasing. The numbers of people are increasing, the prominence of the people who follow them and so on. So we need to stop that, and that should not become a basis, for deciding whether to continue the work of the appointments committee or not. I would think that the minority had a point, okay, but in the final analysis, that point I think was overstretched. If there are question marks about the integrity of members of the appointments committee and so on, it's only fair that those issues be cleared before the appointment committee continues its work. You understand? But under the circumstances, I listened to the chairman of the appointments committee who made the point that we are not ignoring the matter. The matter has just come before us, and we've taken appropriate measures, including extending an invitation to the person who made the allegations to come before us. So we can continue with the vetting and then deal with the issues much later. It didn't make sense to me, and I didn't see why the issue was dragged over a very long period of time. Today, Vamowor would appear before the committee.
Yeah.
It may appear that the allegations are frivolous without any foundation. It's possible. It may also turn out that he has evidence, and that will be exceedingly interesting. If it turns out that he has evidence, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be exceedingly interesting. All of us are waiting to see what will happen in the Appointments Committee of Parliament today.
It's going to be sooner rather than later. Kingsley, can I assume safely that you agree with the minority that the vetting shouldn't have continued in order to safeguard and protect the integrity and the image and reputation of Parliament?
I think, just like they keep on telling us, Parliament is a law. They are bound by their own laws. All right, and so
the masters of their own rules.
Yeah, masters of their own rules. Yes, yeah. Thanks for correcting me. Now, because of that, the consideration as to whether they should continue or not cannot be because of the invited persons.
Okay.
They, as they term it, they are strangers in the house. They are invitees. All right. I think they go through a process before they are allowed in.
In fact, I'm told the numbers have been reduced to as well. The numbers have been reduced to 10 now. Whether they would abide by it.
But what I saw,
it was more than 10.
It's more than 10.
Yes.
All right.
Maybe we start today.
And all of them are coming with some very powerful chiefs.
Yes.
In their traditional regalia, coming to sit there. And I mean, if he's coming with his spouse and one or two persons, of course, that's understandable. So I think, and I've been in a situation where I went with someone, and after that we were all, sent to a very nice place for lunch and all that. And I just went back to my office. And I mean, can you imagine those who traveled outside? They're not able to go back. You should put them in a nice hotel and whatnot, and then give them transportation to go back. So I think that is a burden we are placing, or those appointees are placing on themselves. And I think they should watch, or we should do something about that. But whether or not the vetting should continue should not be because they have invited, or whether or not it is fair on them. They just came to observe something that Parliament in itself is doing. I think it is most important for the public and the parliamentarians themselves to prove to us that, I think the burden rather is on Oliver though, but because it's in the public domain where you are sent to the public court or the court of public opinion, it has to be clear that nothing untoward is happening concerning this appointment, concerning the vetting of this appointment, all right, of these appointees. Because of that, it must be gone into. If it is just one person who's seeking attention, we must all know that, all right, because a lot has been said by this particular individual, and all just gets swept under the carpet, because of probably one person getting some political capital out of it or the other, and then it comes back again, and something's happened. I even heard that this criminal matter in court, there are talks of a nolli prosequi being issued and all that. And speaking of which, I think someone else, a nolli prosequi has been issued against Opuni's case. Yes, and the rapidity with which, when there's a change of government, nolli prosequis are issued, I think is something we have to look at.
It's another conversation we can have.
We can have, yes. Now, for this, if it's not dealt with, and the vetting goes on and on, you remember there's another issue where the shortest time a lady has had is 10 minutes. The regional minister for Greater Accra, 10 minutes. And there was no question asked.
Yes.
And he says, acknowledge the persons. And they actually made reference to those who have come to sit behind her, to say that, I mean, she of course,
the enormity of the respect they have for the people who came with her, and the fact that she's done her homework well, whatever that means.
Exactly, because you see, I was encouraged. I was pleased that he had two former Greater Accra regional ministers who are in my party, Henry Korte and Honorable Titus Glover. Yes, and even when they let her off, the first thing she did was go and hug Henry Korte, proper hug, all right, and the same pleasantries. Fine, I think that it means that our democracy is evolved. It got into a stage where there's nothing.
Well, I disagree, but that's fine.
So for that part, I was pleased that happened.
Okay.
But the fact that because of these individuals, you have done your good job. I don't get it. Greater Accra, we have serious issues in Greater Accra.
Right.
But we wanted to know what are your views and how are you going to surmount these challenges? Sanitation issues, transportation issues. We have people
issues.
Yes, we have people parking. Have you seen the front of 37?
Yep.
These guys park willy-nilly. If you are following, you can be.
Yeah.
It's like you rather who is seeking to do the right thing.
Right.
You are rather a nuisance to them.
Yeah.
All right, and several other things. So and even Medina, the parking there. All right, we have security issues. All right, we have chieftaincy issues. We have several issues. All right, so at least we wanted to know what are your views on these. Okay, so as I said, they're hugging and from different political divides, great. But that should have come after we have heard you, all right, to see how are you going to solve some of the problems. How are you going to interface with, because you are the head of RegSec, isn't it? And I've said here, there's DISEC, there's MUSEC, there's RegSec, and you are the regional minister. But then there's a local government who the MMDCs are supposed to respond to. How are you going to, so there's some overlap somewhere there in terms of functionalities. How are you going to address that? We want to hear from you. When the Minister Designate for Fisheries appeared, everyone is praising her.
Yeah.
The Minister for Ashanti Regional, the Designate for Ashanti Region, the young man, everyone is praising him. So that in itself, I mean, it's not that we are marking you, but that in itself creates in the public mind some acceptability that this is a credible person, this is a person we can rely on to deliver. Then we go back and sit and look at how you have delivered, and we, of course, will critique you because we want results. All right? It's not about coming there to speak English. But at least it creates some level of, acceptability that, oh, yes, indeed, the president was very thoughtful in choosing this particular person amongst the lot to come, you see, and take care of this sector or that sector. But we were deprived of that, you see. So, back to the issue of whether or not it should happen. I think we need to satisfy ourselves that nothing has happened. Someone didn't get 10 minutes because some brown envelopes happened or anything of that sort. Indeed, we just look at the person, we know her competencies, and we think she should just go. Remember that the Constitution says that a minister should be someone who qualifies as a member of parliament, isn't it? And she's also a member of parliament. I don't know whether this is a first term. I think she served more term, more than this, isn't it? So they know her already. Right. So they can tell that this person is a competent person. All right. So we also need to factor in what levels of vetting are we going to have? Are we going to have the elongated one, 4 hours, where it looks like, oh, we were looking for you, now you have come, so let's squeeze you to see, and then some of them will just go, without asking proper throw-in questions. You see, we have to factor all these. But in the midst of all that, we cannot have at the back of our minds some bribery or corruption issue factoring into this. You see? So, by all means, if it had to be truncated, so we go into that, I think it is good. Yes, I think it is good.
I think that, look, members of the Appointments Committee need to understand very clearly that their work is at a cost to the state and also to citizens, even in their private capacity. First of all, this is being telecast live by many television stations. Now, if you calculate how much advertisements cost per minute, and we spend 10 hours at the Appointments Committee, that's a huge amount of money, which we are spending. Then come to think of the time, that people stop doing their work and so on to watch. You can also cost that in monetary terms, and even cost that in terms of social loss and social gain and so on, So what they're doing is at a cost, and they have a responsibility, to the extent that it is possible, to to minimize the cost to all of us of this exercise. Vetting people for 10 hours, really, when at the end, both sides agree that there's nothing wrong, the person should be approved, is problematic. You understand? It's really problematic. Now, again, sometimes I sit back and I wonder. This gentleman who has been nominated to become Ashanti Regional Minister, I watch his video. Yeah. The guy comes in and then they start. Oh, we know you are a TikToker. I mean, all of you saw it. He says, yes. Oh, before you came to the committee, did you do any posting? He said, yes, I did. You know, what did you post and so on? At that stage, I was thinking that somebody may have seen a post which would be relevant to his character or to his work or something.
True.
Nothing like that. So I'm sitting at home watching television and saying, what a joke. What is this about?
So you're questioning the relevance of that comment.
Exactly. I mean, it's reduced to some comical enterprise. You understand? Then there's another one, and the person is asked, you know, what is your favorite song? And he mentions his favorite song. Can you sing it for us? My goodness. What is that? The whole vetting process being reduced to some, you know, talent hunt?
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
Someone was asked to sing a
Before.
Methodist hymn.
That is long ago.
Yes,
I mean, the Methodist hymn is, I think, it was during President Mills's tenure.
Yes.
Where somebody nominated to serve as a minister comes before the committee and they say, you go to church? Yeah, says, yes, I go to church. Oh, you must therefore know how to sing hymns. What is your favorite hymn? She mentions it. I say, sing your favorite hymn for us. Another guy, I think it was Professor Phoebe or so.
Okay, Lands and Natural Resources.
Who was asked to sing the national anthem. What is happening? I mean, I raised this issue yesterday. And some very distinguished citizens, you know, actually said that, oh, sometimes they can tell that the nominee is so tense and it's an attempt to help the nominee, you know, break out of the tension and feel relaxed and so on. If somebody is nominated a minister, you want to test their stress level. If they can't take stress, if sitting before the appointments committee, they become so nervous that you have to make them sing Methodist hymn and Amachi the Day songs and so on, they are not qualified to be ministers. Because the job of a minister entails a lot of stress. You understand? So if you go and sit on the appointments committee and you think that your duty is to help relieve stress and so on, what are you doing to us? You know, the other thing which really, I mean, shocks me is when a nominee appears before the committee and a member, you know, asks for the right to ask a question, means, you know, puts up a hand and so on. And then he starts by saying, oh, you are a very honorable person. I know that you are an excellent person. You are more than qualified to do the job. You have no difficulty exercising your functions as a minister. Thank you very much. I have no questions to ask. Is that the purpose of the appointments committee? Is that the purpose? Praise singing? What is that? Look, I think that all Ghanaians want a serious job to be done. One, because these ministers have been nominated and are likely to assume office at a time when this country is in very deep crisis. And the crisis that this country is in dictates that processes leading to nomination, vetting, and appointment are serious processes. Yes, we are in crisis. You know, we can go through the crisis. I don't think that I want to go through that now. Everybody knows the crisis in which we are. So the appointments committee ought to be serious. The other problem that I have with the appointments committee is that it's becoming a platform for political point scoring. That is not what it's supposed to be. You know, you said this about my party and so on. Come and clear yourself and so on. No, I don't think that it is a platform for political point scoring. Now, because of that, the public is able to predict what is likely to happen. Who is going to stay there for 10 hours and who is going to stay there for 10 minutes and so on. It's so predictable. I mean, this morning, I'm watching social media, and the public is predicting that Okudjato will probably be the longest, stay the longest with the appointments committee. Yeah. I hope that the public is proved wrong. I hope that the public is proved wrong. But that's the public expectation. As a matter of fact, a young man posted that if he's going for vetting, he should go with his pillow, his blanket, and a mattress, because he's going to be grilled. And
he's anticipating it.
Yeah, a long time. Why? Because he has been a leading advocate and made allegations against people on the other side. So the expectation is that people on the other side are going to take advantage of this platform to engage in political point scoring. Why? Why? Is that the purpose? You would notice that the vetting of ministers has not always been with us. Indeed, when we had the Westminster type of governance, there was no vetting of ministers. Because I think that it was assumed at the time that ministers must be persons who simply are qualified as members of parliament, because ministers were taken from parliament. You know, so if you're a member of parliament, automatically you qualify to be a minister. So there was no need for vetting. It was when we introduced the hybrid of the American presidential system and the Westminster system, which made it possible to appoint people from outside parliament, that it became necessary to test their qualification. You understand? Their qualification to be ministers. And what is the qualification to be minister? What's the qualification to be minister? Some people even go to the extent of suggesting that we should test them for their technical knowledge and skills and so on. Well, I wouldn't object to that. You understand? But then I'm mindful of the fact that ministers are not technical heads of the ministries.
Necessarily.
They are political heads of the ministries. They are meant to be given political direction rather than technical direction. You understand? So if we overdwell on their technical competence and so on, we may not be doing injustice, we may not be doing justice to their roles as political heads of the ministries. And I've worked in the civil service, I've worked in the public service and so on. I've worked very closely under ministers and so on. Master, this whole elevated position of minister and so on, what is it? Some of these ministries can run without ministers. In fact, the ministers become an extra burden on the ministries. And sometimes they become impediments in the way of the technocrats who want to do things and so on. You know, and I know what I'm talking about. You know, the best minister may be one who is effective at coordination and good at initiating brainstorming sessions and so on, and allows, you know, some kind of participation in the decision-making process of all the relevant sectors and so on. That's the best minister.
Right. I'm sure.
If I may add something to
a quick contribution to what you just said.
I think some of the ministries, by the nature of the job the minister is supposed to do, he necessarily has to be a technical person. And a key example is Attorney General and Minister of Justice.
Right.
Because he has to.
That's a specialized.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Finance, for example.
Finance, exactly. Yes. But even he also has to, because Chris Boche is the longest serving finance minister, I think, and he didn't do that bad because he knew how to coordinate others to do their job. So on that point, I would agree with you on that. And I think another key factor is that he should be able to translate the vision of the president concerning this ministry to them in such a way that they'll be able to deliver. If you don't do that, then you failed. You see, so you should be able to. So I agree with him that when you go to the ministry, you should be able to have such a relationship with the technical directors to the extent that they will buy into that vision enough to realize it. You see, if you're not able to do that, then
yeah. So we're getting the
The
right
minister, the minister has no powers of his own.
Yeah.
What the minister exercises is the power of the president.
yes.
You know, so the minister, more or less, is the interface between the president and the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So his prime responsibility is to push the vision of the president, to get the technocrats and so on to buy into the vision of the president, and to find ways of realizing that vision in concrete terms.
Right.
That's the role of the minister.
Right. But
So when they're asking questions at the appointment committee, every and any question must be directed at how are you going to achieve this?
Okay.
First to promise.
Right.
You understand? How is that going to be translated into an actionable plan to achieve objective A, objective B, and objective C?
Yeah,
I get that.
that should be that.
I get that. But of course, it also doesn't take anything away from the minister if he has some technical knowledge of the space.
Yes, so sisi amino kasa idea na chese we ensama yewura Kwesi Pride Junior wotimi edia ba beto edwane endro eye Oliver Barker Vamowor etwe on Facebook wall say he is glad to be called, and I say he is glad to be what, to be Omokan is saying to be invited to the appointment committee because he has a lot to say. Hey, akwawe, me say, are you too are you too confident? Mrs. say, wherever that fire comes from, no, smoke comes from, no, there will be definitely a fire at that area. It Mrs. say, Oliver Barker Vamowor, there was some background be. In fact, Orano, or back by financial yibi, and also back by some 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 evidence be, and na omotrasia and a be who dear ebekoso. But truth must be told, I was na Oliver Barker, it me kasa semnana. Because ocean komodidia orano na all kind of Facebook is like a statement and a obisa. It is your copy appointment committee in no case. He was asking question because he don't have the facts. And now obisa say ayampa say what it is or mutu esika. Entino onu di ebisa say sa denon so or affect the aura now. He can be smart on the appointment committee before them. He can be smart. Obetimi I smart by putting it to them because Oshe the exactly what Oliver Barker wrote on his Facebook warner. It's like say na obisa question. I say it is in a question form. Say does it not affect the aura? And also affect the aura na nkofo mu gigi sika e committee ni so before so mo be approve any nominee no. And also enye den affect the aura na aura we manfa Ghana fondia mfa fondia go se mo be kai se Oliver Barker and na woni Kandapa, then is it security minister? Yes, national security minister. Kandapa, right? On any issue be up to now, and and I think say 10 million defamation be so honum. Na sa Oliver Nankasa didn't no pay because Oceana or no the agenda and say any political party be about or finding ways and means. Now we can hit it that we can hit it before say obey then aban no ebesha say ofole. This statement, I personally did not support how it is coming from. And I say when obai, it is too late. I mean it is too early. Say Oliver Barker me I make it, and it is rather unfortunate. So bit me make that kind of statement, you know, because it could be say you have the evidence, but what if the evidence no any legit? Because a bit me about say a audio now, and in Ghana here no, any evidence based on audio beyond you classifying as adopted audio. Obi did say account. And in his okwana say a audio they can decide not to take it because make me say masa audio dear obi betimi atena say ahihye the obi voice aye. But when it is video, maybe then you are good to go. But a video, how would you Oliver Barker we pa owura osajefu Oliver Barker Vamowor. Hey, entina chese ono de na agenda ni say always said na owura pandit na eka no always a little opportunity obenya no opeso otimi de popular. Opportunity bi obenya no opeso otimi de popular. What you say entino opeso no nso ne din ebam bi ene onye minister Yewura John Mahama mbo odin se ko na ko perform any role, but it seems say he is even gaining popularity than the ministers are omaiden omabomudin. And then also na me who say one of the fastest nominee a one chair appointment committee ni so in fact or set a record under 10 minutes Accra regional minister. Yes, Accra regional minister. Yeah, so yeah, share say Oliver Obeden. Ebia depending on when I watch me, she see me no kase kwa. It could be say Oliver ewo panel no sana committee ni so a oni omu edidi nkomo na it could be say afen so ena obekwa kopi so ebi so a wakwaba. But depending on the time I may create this content na afei ena owura no ebeden ebeko committee ni so na yetimi ehu de ebeko. E di say me di kan de ebeko bia no how confident this man is, you know, it could be so evidence, but it can based on audio, and audio so they will never accept it because Ghana has said the media can first no. We don't accept evidence based on audio. You could be bit make say me and I'll do my voice. I can see any, but video session they are not say based on video they are on your who's a kwabna ni jina hwa o shaky hands a o jisika di she ni botomi enti no se akoba audio dia Vamowor ne to atwi video dia eno dia he's good to go enti that is it enti na yentwen na yenhwe die ebesie ti sa na akoya busia ma memfa wonsi Yankopon enkoso anhira enti Oliver Barker Vamowor die I don't know. He's trying to be an opportunist. Always a little time you'll be an opportunist the day or the back Ghana a trending space in him no so a ginny or share demonstration or so obey in coming seas of March. I don't know the basis or the Gina holiday casa. But anyway, or not the send you no. So many enko demonstration await. Eti abusia mamefa wonsi hanom negative message also subscribe to the channel now like you made no share na foforo etimi enye bi ahwe eti osagefo Oliver Barker Vamowor say appointment committee no a mo veti Yewura John Mahama ni nominees no they are taking monies, so that monies they are taking no Amo can say affect the ora na the operation recover all loot no affect you no we your question na ora no ebisa eti mi di kan first say okọ obetimi aka say your question na obisa eno nyan ka say obi akoya na say atiti sem mi na watiti allege bi But man you say any statement, allegation be any say allegedly sikano mo no or making a raw etin Oliver Barker Vamowor no and they say tibia ne to betimi atwi because the okay can de wanya evidence based on video na ho betimi akire no and he can be sanctioned because ohwendo na frank na don pre any how ana nkofo nya believing and am so kra ma frank na don pre ndo a ma me emefa hard castle etimi di nanim twitwiri form kama pa ma ne ye fefefe ema Ghana ha obi ahu sampa frankarodo mpendra woman ne drele no kama enti se saa nneema we nyina akoso a ene Oliver Barker Vamowor wantimi amprove ne ho with evidence based on video a enye papa mfama no ewo committee ne so in fact obeji ono ankasa na yi eningu ase enti Nyankopon hira makro bibia me ma meche ba for United States of America ma me Nyankopon yo kese ma me royal bi UK Nyankopon hira me ma me royal BTV ko na ko subscribe bibia ntimi enkoso makro bibia bye bye.